One of the big changes in my course of life happened when I met Dr. Andrew Wakefield, and we worked together to complete his film, Vaxxed, which he directed. And I really think that was a game-changing moment for the world around this conversation. If you don't know who Andrew Wakefield is, you would have had to been asleep at the wheel and sleeping under a rock and probably buried in lava. But here he is, just in case you missed it.
Dr. Andrew Wakefield. Dr. Andrew Wakefield.
Dr. Andrew Wakefield.
Andrew Wakefield.
The doctor who convinced thousands of parents to skip vital vaccinations for their children.
A 1998 study that linked the vaccine to autism and bowel disease gained enormous credibility from its publication in the British medical journal, The Lancet.
Our duty was not only to investigate those children to see if we could get to the root of their symptoms, but we have an obligation as doctors and scientists to faithfully report what the parent has told to us.
There's a film that is so controversial, it's getting booted from some film festivals, Vaxxed, from cover-up to catastrophe.
The MMR vaccine is causally associated with autism, and they have covered it up.
I, as a parent of a child who has autism, all I wanted was the movie to be seen. People can make their own judgment.
I knew what I was getting into. I had a choice. I could have backed out of it. I could have continued. My medical training told me that I should invest my trust in the mother's story and pursue that to the expense of the experts. So I had a choice.
If you see something going on that is immoral, that is fake, that is fraudulent, then you've got to stand up and recant it. Putting all of this to one side, there is a much more important issue at stake, and that is the well-being of the children of this country and the world. And many of those have lost their voice or have no voice, and it's up to those of us who care about these issues to speak for them.
All right, well, it's my honor and pleasure to be joined by the man who really needs no introduction.
Great to see you, Dale.
It's really great to see you.
The traveler returns.
Indeed, indeed. Look what you got me into. I have you to blame.
I wish I could say I'm sorry, but I'm not. I'm glad you're here.
I think about you a lot, Andy, as I travel around, and I've thought a lot about really a moment when we were sitting in your basement working on Vax, and I said, are you worried that the truth will never get out, that we will just poison our children and it'll just continue on? And you said to me, no, eventually this will get so bad that people will have to wake up and the truth will be known. It's just how bad does it get before we realize what's been done and we can't ignore it. And I think about that because, I think about you, I think about Janie McCarthy, I think about some of these individuals that stood all by yourself when you made these discoveries, when you came out in the media. And I am touring the world. I'm probably doing 10, 20 interviews per country I go to, all the top scientists in the world. And they're saying what you started saying in the late 1990s. And I just thought, oh my God, Andy, you're not alone anymore. I mean, the cat is out of the bag. And we're talking the best scientists in the world. Are you getting a sense of this shift that's going on?
Yes, I am. Strangely, the other day I was invited by Nick Hulscher and Peter McCullough to go on their paper. And their paper was an analysis, I'm sure you saw it, of all 136 studies that have purported to look at the relationship between vaccines and autism, including 12 or 13 vax versus unvax studies, the definitive safety study. And they came to the firm conclusion at the end of this analysis that vaccines, early childhood vaccines, multiple vaccines, were the greatest modifiable risk factor for autism spectrum disorder. So all I asked for all those years ago was more science to be done. The science has now been done and the case is made. It'll take a while for it to sink in, but the fact is, you and I know that the public will be the final arbiter of whether vaccines are acceptable or not. Doesn't matter how much they spend on advertising, coercion, bullying, threatening people, taking away jobs. In the end, the consumer, the market always wins, and that's what's going to happen here.
I feel that. We're seeing polling now. I think in the last poll I saw 60% of pregnant families that are in a pregnancy right now are saying they are not going to adhere directly to the CDC schedule, either manipulating the timing, skipping some vaccines or all vaccines. I was just talking to Politico last week, and she was trying to make the argument that MAHA is very confused, that there's a lot of Democrats that consider they have MAHA values but won't put that name on themselves. And she said, you know, vaccines are not the strongest part of MAHA. It polls lower than all the food work. But she admitted to me, she says, you know, in our poll, though, I think it's now 40% of Americans believe there is a problem with the vaccine program. And she says, though it's not above the 50%, it's not around the 60 or 70% where food poisoning is at, she's like, I have to admit to you, that is a huge growth in the amount of people that are now looking at it. So we're 10% away from majority, really, a national majority seeing a problem with this program. I think that's moments away.
Yeah, no, when I first got involved all those years ago, there were perhaps 5 people, a handful of people around the world,
right,
who were even prepared to discuss the thorny issue of vaccine safety. Now, after Vaxxed and the work that you're doing and Aaron Siri's doing, and then COVID, in particular COVID had a dramatic effect, biggest mistake they ever made. Now it's more than half the adult population of the world are saying there's a problem, there's something going on. Whether they've decided to continue to adhere to the program or not, they're having that conversation around the table every night. What do we do? What do we do? Do we continue? And that's the trend. Look at the trend, and the trend will tell you exactly where this is going in the future.
I totally agree, Andy. I think you will. I've said it when I worked with you from the very beginning. You're going to go down in history as a man that was way ahead of his time. I think one of the greatest scientists of our time is you. You called it before anyone. And one day, as the Peter McCulloughs and the Pierre Corys and the Robert Malones are all coming on board and starting to recognize, sorry, Andy, for all the things I said or believed. Any scientist that actually looks at this is proving that you were right. I like to dream of a world. What would it have been had we listened to you from the beginning? But let's move on, because you're not buried in the past. You keep moving forward. You're incredibly creative. You'd made documentaries before we made Vax together. You've made several since, and you had a feature film in Protocol 7. But now we are going into the realm here. Let's go ahead and get a shot of your new book, The Big Quest, a narrative. This is a piece of fiction that obviously ties in some things that you care about. But tell me, just what's the elevator pitch on The Quest?
It's an interesting story, Del. Okay, so 2010, I went to a conference, gave a lecture in the US, and I was invited out to dinner by a mother afterwards, and she had a single child, a teenager, profoundly injured, non-verbal, and she was estranged from her husband, one child, no other children. And over dinner, she asked me if I would father a child for her. Now you may think, what a really
I have not had that happen yet.
That's the first time it's come up
thank God.
on the show. But what she was asking was something that was symptomatic of a far greater problem. Okay, millions of parents in this country and around the world lie awake at night thinking, what happens to my child when I'm gone? When I become infirm or die, who is going to look after them? Because the world doesn't care, the world doesn't understand them, the world most certainly doesn't love them in the way that I do. They will die on the street.
Yeah.
And that's a pervasive concern of so many parents, of the people, the children, the individuals who have been injured on this battlefield that I believe and you believe is part of man's often futile quest against infectious disease. So what she was asking was a very, very sincere. She wasn't interested in a night of passion with Andy Wakefield. Forget that. That's what she wanted. It was to have a baby, to have a healthy baby
that could take care
would grow up,
his
to
brother,
look after
her
brother. Absolutely. And so I was so moved. I said at the time, I'm going to write a screenplay about this. This is absolutely fascinating. And to take it away from the issue of causation, to focus on that central issue of what happens when I'm no longer here, I put it on the Oregon Trail in the 1860s. And I did that, one, to get away from the issue of causation, to focus on that specific issue, and the other to put it in one of the most brutal environments imaginable. And so that's where it is. It's a Western. If anyone out there knows Taylor Sheridan, get him on the phone, tell him I want him to produce this film. And that's the basis of the bequest. And it was going to be a movie, and as you know, the movie industry is in the doldrums at the moment. And my assistant, Emmy Robbins, said, you need to write this as a book. It's much cheaper to write a book and get it out there than make a movie. Someone will look at it and think, wow, that'll make a great movie, and off you go. So thanks, Emmy.
Yeah.
And I knew she was right. I thought, oh, damn, really, have I got it? And I did. I knew she was right, and I sat down and did it.
It was, in reading it, it reminded me, and sort of, I had an interesting thought about it. So you take, are they Norwegian, Scandinavian?
Norwegian.
Fishing family, rough life, come to America for a new vision, and then this woman, her husband, they're all together, and of course tragedy strikes as did in those times, and she's left with her autistic son trying to navigate this world. And it reminded me a little bit of one of my, favorite books by Cormac McCarthy, The Road. And I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's, an apocalyptic experience. But what it really is a story about fatherhood. It's a story about how do I make my son strong enough to survive in this very dark world, and I'm running out of time. And I got the same sense. It was almost, I felt like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it felt like a metaphor of what you and I have experienced in meeting all of these mothers going through this experience, which is, it is like the Wild West for them. They are suddenly isolated. No one helps. There's no doctor there that understands what's going on. No teacher believes them. Oftentimes, the husbands give up very early on, and they bail out because if we can't fix it right away. Of course, in this story, the father's lost to tragedy very early on, but I felt that mother in one of the most dangerous scenarios that you put her in, trying to live in this world and find a way for her child to live into the future. So it reminded me of that. Let's take it out and put it into a different space. But really, when you talk to these mothers, they might as well be on the Oregon Trail. There's no doctors, there's no hospital. They're being gaslit. They're being accused of child abuse if they try to do anything. So it's really, in some ways, it was a really interesting way to help us experience what I think so many of these mothers and fathers too, but in your story, it's that mother's journey.
I think that analogy with McCarthy is a very good one. When I first got involved, I was presented with two competing sets of arguments. One from the experts, God save us from experts, COVID has taught us that, and the mothers. The experts saying, look, children don't regress, it starts in the womb, it's genetic. Parents just thought their children were speaking. They weren't really using complex words like helicopter. They were just making noises. There's no bowel disease. There's no getting better. Put them in a home and forget about it. That was the expert opinion. Yeah. Mothers said no, all of that is wrong, and the mothers have been right on absolutely every count. So the truth here and the substance of this is to trust the instinct of the mothers, and that will lead you in the right direction to a better understanding. And really, that's what it is. It's the road writ large.
Well, it's a great journey. Everybody, grab this book wherever books are sold. Is that where
it's on Amazon, or go to our website, which I'm sure you're posting. But
okay, there it is.
thebequest.co. Okay. Co, not .com.
Okay.
Co.
You'll love this read, especially if this sort of storyline is around you. It's a really beautiful journey. I found myself lost in your descriptions. You really are a great writer, a great human being. So, and by the way, I want you to stick around for Off the Record, because just about a year ago you were here, and we were talking like it might be your last time here. You're having serious heart problems, even discussions of transplant. I want to talk to you about that journey, but after the show. It's a totally different topic, so stick around. Check out The Bequest, but just the beauty of books now and AI is you can go and make a trailer. This is something I'm seeing a lot of people do, which is, a trailer of The Bequest, and it gives you a sense this could be a movie. Check this out.
The few men who survived will go back to the sea and sail for the New World. Here is only hardship and death. Oh, and salted herring. Protect him. He sees the world in ways that are lost to us in our daily struggles to survive.